never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Right. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person at the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do.
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay. Is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
In today's episode, Auditor I Spy makes a routine stop at a BP petrol station, simply looking to fill up and pay. Instead of using a banknote, he presents a £20 coin issued by the Royal Mint, officially recognised as legal tender in the UK. What should have been a straightforward transaction quickly spirals out of control. The staff refuse to accept the coin, even though it holds the same lawful status as any other form of currency. Rather than resolving the matter as a civil dispute between customer and business, the staff escalate matters by calling the police. When officers arrive, the expectation would be calm de-escalation and clarification of the law. Instead, the opposite occurs. The situation intensifies, and to the shock of onlookers, I Spy is arrested, even though he had committed no criminal offence. The decision, rash and unsupported, highlights the dangers of confusing civil disagreements with criminal enforcement. That choice ultimately backfires. Taking the matter to court, I Spy challenges the arrest and the misuse of authority. The result? A significant payout in his favour, reinforcing the principle that officers must act within the law, not beyond it. What began as a simple fuel stop ended up as a stark lesson in accountability, reminding both the public and the police that rights cannot be ignored without consequences.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve a civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue, that's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But we don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue, then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is. It is a police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them.
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today whether we take your details and we deal with it a later.
From the moment the attending officer steps onto the scene, her handling of the situation raises serious concerns. The auditor immediately spots her body-worn camera and asks why she hasn't announced that it is recording. Guidance on this point is unambiguous. Officers are required to make the public aware of recording at the earliest opportunity. Transparency is the entire purpose of body cameras, yet instead of acknowledging the rule, she denies that such an obligation even exists. Her approach then takes another misstep. She begins pressing the auditor for his name, despite the fact that this was not a criminal investigation but a civil disagreement between a customer and a business. In the absence of any alleged offence, there was no lawful basis for demanding identification. The request created tension rather than clarity. Whether the officer genuinely did not understand the limits of her authority or simply chose to disregard them, the outcome was the same, an erosion of professionalism. For someone entrusted with enforcing the law, either option is deeply concerning. A role built on authority must be balanced by knowledge and accountability, and on this occasion, both were noticeably absent.
So basically, he's trying to pay with this. They've run the post office and said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter, however, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. No. He's obviously not really... can't want him to do that at the minute.
Because it's a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But you're still going to make off, aren't you? technically without payment, but if we can get your details,
But I have paid.
but you haven't.
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Have you?
How's it
Has he
their
paid?
policy? No, he hasn't.
Right. If you haven't paid, and if you walk out the door now,
They've
then
still
you're
got,
li-
they've still got the money though.
Just let,
Well, whatever
just
you
let
say
me
that is.
finish. If you
Yeah.
walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them
But I do
because it's a civil issue.
But it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police matter.
In her own words, the officer concedes that the matter is a civil dispute, yet moments later she attempts to create authority where none exists by insisting on identification. That is not how policing operates. If no criminal offence is suspected, there is no lawful power to compel personal details. A disagreement over payment methods cannot suddenly be transformed into a police-driven ID check simply because a retailer is frustrated. Her claim that the auditor could be circulated as wanted was nothing more than an empty threat. Wanted markers are reserved for criminal investigations, suspects with outstanding warrants or individuals who fail to attend court, not customers in the middle of a contractual disagreement. Using the language of criminal enforcement in a civil setting is not only misleading but also demonstrates a lack of lawful foundation from the outset. If she had genuinely believed that a crime was occurring, she would have needed to apply the legal test. Was there dishonesty, an attempt to make off without payment, or intent to permanently avoid paying? None of those elements were present. The auditor remained at the location, offered payment, and disputed only the method. That scenario is the very definition of a civil matter, one that should have been resolved between customer and business without the misuse of police powers.
So if you walk out that
No,
door
it's
now,
not.
it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that
Is there
the
any other
coin can be
way? Is
used.
there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being.
No,
However, we need
I don't
a
intend to.
solution.
No.
No, I know you
If
appreciate
you
that.
can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details and we can deal with it at a slow time, we can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
We don't know where you live, you might not even be from around here, I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean, we have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the fuel. Which one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid at the minute.
The entire confrontation was built on a false premise. The officers repeatedly warned, "If you leave," as though the auditor was on the verge of fleeing without payment. But that moment never came. He remained inside the store, continued engaging in conversation, and had already attempted to pay with a Royal Mint £20 coin. Their response was not to his actual behaviour, but to an imagined scenario. That is not the application of law, it is speculation dressed up as enforcement. Equally weak was the insistence that the only way to confirm his identity was through compelled disclosure of ID. The reality was different. His vehicle, complete with registration plate, was parked directly outside, a simple, lawful, and immediate way to verify details if there had been genuine need. By disregarding that option, the officers bypassed a legitimate method and pressed on with demands that had no legal foundation. Instead of working toward resolution, the officers inflated the problem. A civil disagreement about a form of payment was gradually reshaped into a supposed criminal matter, not because the evidence supported it, but because authority was asserted where none existed. In doing so, they didn't diffuse the conflict, they escalated it, leaving behind a record of poor judgment and avoidable tension.
Well, I have, because I've handed the coin over. Right. So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No.
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
Correct.
Right, so did you contact them today, or was it yesterday, or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
How's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. At the end
You
of the
don't know that. It is. It's
Right.
legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right, okay.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we can kind of end the matter here, can't we?
Well, if it's a civil
you're not
issue, I
going
don't need
but
to
at the minute
assist you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
But I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that kind.
It's a
You're
civil
running the risk
agreement.
of being arrested because you haven't given us details, and you're going to walk out that door, and it's technically a failure to pay.
But then it'll be a
Make up for
civil.
that payment.
But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's
So,
fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
unlawful
But
arrest.
like I said, we've been honest with you in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest, okay? And all I'm saying
Well, he
is, if you
hasn't.
get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But
you
as
know-
far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, it's going to be make without payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
Oh, you give us your details.
You're refusing to give us your details, and we don't know that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you
Is it urgent?
that he said he would take the coin
But he isn't out.
if I take my mask off.
Right, well I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for you've got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could be registered to somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't need to assist you.
Once you leave this situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go.
But I
with,
don't
but you
need
still
to assist you.
Are you offering to give
Because
the
you're
staff,
wrong.
not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option, but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the background.
Fine, you can
So-
prove that
You
at
can
court.
prove-
You
got
can prove
that.
that at court.
That's
then.
fine. You can prove that
Yeah.
at court.
Right, well, this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't
I
have to
haven't-
say anything,
but I haven't made off.
defense. We don't mention one question to the letter line court. Anything you do is to make a good evidence.
But I haven't made off
That's
though.
for your arrest as a prompted and factual investigation. Okay?
But I haven't
So
made off.
that you're under caution as well.
And due to the fact you failed to provide data.
But I haven't made off.
Fails to provide details, yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right, are we going to go calmly? We're going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay, well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Just come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just take them out. It's just a question we ask everybody.
Can we just take your camera off as well, please?
This is the point where the situation nosedives from incompetence into outright abuse of authority. The officers arrest the auditor on suspicion of making off without payment, while he is literally still inside the shop, telling them to their faces, "I haven't made off." That single statement should have been the end of the matter. The alleged offence requires someone to actually leave the premises without paying. He hadn't left, he wasn't attempting to leave, and he was actively engaging in the dispute. From a legal standpoint, their actions collapse instantly. The Theft Act is clear. The offence demands both the act of departing and the intent to permanently avoid payment. Neither condition was met. The auditor had already offered a valid Royal Mint £20 coin, and the only reason the transaction had not concluded was because the cashier refused to accept it. That isn't avoidance of payment, it's the textbook definition of a civil dispute. Yet the officers pressed on, turning a straightforward disagreement into a fabricated crime. By proceeding with an arrest they knew couldn't stand up under the law, they exposed not only a lack of judgment but a deliberate misuse of power. And as we'll soon see, Auditor I Spy delivers a powerful update on how that unlawful decision has now come back to cost the police dearly.
About 10 months ago, I walked out of those gates after being falsely arrested for using the £20 coin. The Chief Constable has paid out £4,000 in compensation, but unfortunately he did not apologise at any point, even taking him to court. He went all the way to court, we had the hearing date, and then the Chief Constable saw some sense and paid £4,000 in compensation, but no apology.
The case eventually reached court, and the auditor walked away with a £3,999 payout plus legal costs. That's not pocket change, it's a serious financial hit for what should never have escalated beyond a simple civil disagreement. The size of the settlement tells its own story. The police knew their position was indefensible once exposed to legal scrutiny, and rather than risk losing outright in court, they folded. They admitted their failure with taxpayers' money, not with accountability. What makes this outcome even more damning is that, according to the auditor, the Chief Constable, the head of the entire force, never once offered an apology. They were quick to sign off on nearly £4,000 in damages, but couldn't muster the basic professionalism to say sorry. That silence speaks volumes. It reveals a culture where protecting reputations outweighs admitting mistakes, and where public trust is treated as an afterthought rather than the foundation of policing. This case is a textbook example of how minor disputes spiral into misconduct when officers abandon the law for ego. A civil disagreement over a Royal Mint coin, something that never should have required police involvement, was twisted into a wrongful arrest because authority was used as a weapon. The officers didn't enforce the law, they invented scenarios to justify their actions. If you walk out without paying, they kept insisting, even though the auditor made it clear he wouldn't. They didn't deal with reality. They dealt with fiction, and the cost of that fiction was measured in taxpayers' pounds and lost public trust.